What happens when Hollywood's biggest action star steps into the lion's den of daytime television and refuses to play by the rules? What you're about to witness is billed as the most explosive confrontation in talk show history, a moment where Tom Cruise allegedly turned the tables on Joy Behar in front of millions, leaving the studio stunned. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment sharing your thoughts on celebrity confrontations on live TV. The morning began like any other at the View Studios in New York. Joy Behar swept into the makeup room with her trademark confidence, a smug smile already in place. Behind the scenes, she was preparing for what she believed would be a takedown. Tom Cruise was scheduled to appear to promote the latest Mission Impossible film, and Joy had made no secret of her criticism of his personal beliefs and lifestyle. Today, she planned to confront him on live television. "This is going to be fun," she muttered to her makeup artist, giving herself one last glance in the mirror. "I've got questions that'll make him squirm." What Joy didn't realize was that Cruise had prepared as well. He'd watched clip after clip of The View, studying her interview tactics, her favorite jabs, and the pressure points she liked to exploit. This wasn't going to be another polite celebrity appearance. When the cameras rolled, the tension was noticeable. Whoopi Goldberg glanced uneasily between Joy and Tom, while the other co-hosts grew unusually quiet. Cruise sat comfortably in his chair, his famous smile firmly in place, but there was something steely behind his eyes. "So, Tom," Joy began, her voice coated in fox sweetness, "let's talk about your new movie. Though I have to ask, at your age, isn't it time to stop doing your own stunts? You're not exactly 20 anymore." Nervous laughter rippled through the audience. Tom's smile widened. "Well, Joy, I appreciate your concern," he replied calmly. "Though for someone who's built a career sitting behind a desk making jokes, it's interesting to question someone who actually gets up and does the work." The room noticeably cooled. Joy's practiced smile flickered before she shot back. "Oh, please. That's rich coming from someone who jumps on couches. Do you ever regret making such a spectacle of yourself?" Cruise leaned forward slightly, his tone measured. "Joy, I expressed genuine happiness about finding love. I understand that might feel unfamiliar to someone whose public persona is built on cynicism and tearing others down." The co-hosts exchanged uneasy glances. "Excuse me," Joy snapped. "I think you're confusing honest journalism with cynicism." "Honest journalism?" Tom raised an eyebrow. "Is that what we're calling gossip and personal attacks now?" "I've watched your show." "You don't ask questions to inform. You ask them to humiliate guests and boost your own ego." The studio fell silent. Joy's face flushed beneath her makeup. "How dare you come on my show and insult me?" she fired back. "Your show?" Tom tilted his head. "I thought this was The View, a panel discussion. Or has it become the Joy Behar Power Hour?" Whoopi tried to step in. "Let's all take it down a notch." But Joy wasn't backing down. "Listen here, you little man. I've been doing this longer than you've been making movies." Tom's smile never faded, but his voice sharpened. "Little man" is interesting coming from someone whose biggest achievement is making people uncomfortable on daytime TV. And for the record, I've been making movies since before you figured out how to turn bitterness into a paycheck." The audience gasped. Joy opened her mouth, then closed it again, momentarily speechless. She'd never had a guest push back so calmly, so precisely, and so devastatingly. "You think you can just waltz in here and disrespect me?" Joy's voice was trembling now. "Do you have any idea who I am?" "I know exactly who you are, Joy," Tom replied, his voice steady, unshaken. "You're someone who mistakes rudeness for wit, cruelty for humor, and volume for authority. You've spent decades masking insecurity with a performance of superiority. But strip that away, and what's left is simple. You're a bully with a microphone." The words detonated in the studio, hanging in the air like shrapnel. Joy's carefully crafted public persona began to crack in real time, and she felt it slipping. The other hosts sat frozen, uncertain whether to step in or let the implosion continue. Joy's face flushed crimson as her professional composure dissolved piece by piece. She scanned the table for backup, but found only strained expressions and awkward silence. The audience watched in stunned disbelief as the show's usual dominant voice struggled to regain control. "You don't know anything about me?" Joy stammered, her authority draining from her tone. I've dedicated my life to speaking truth to power. Tom laughed, an authentic sound that somehow made the moment even sharper. Truth to power. Joy, you are the power. You have a platform that reaches millions every day. And what do you do with it? You mock, belittle, and tear down anyone who doesn't mirror your worldview. That isn't courage. That's cowardice. I asked the tough questions. Joy shot back, though the conviction was gone. No, Tom corrected calmly. You ask gotcha questions designed to humiliate. There's a difference between journalism and ambush. You don't seek understanding, you seek conflict. You don't want answers, you want ammunition. Whoopi finally tried to intervene. Tom, maybe we should move on and talk about the film. Actually, Whoopi? This conversation is long overdue, Tom said without looking away from Joy. Because what Joy represents is everything that's broken in modern media. She's turned discourse into blood sport, and wears it like a badge of honor. Joy's hands trembled now, whether from fury or humiliation. It was impossible to tell. You sanctimonious little weasel, she snapped. You think making action movies qualifies you to lecture me about media? I think being a human being who's watched you tear people apart on television for sport gives me that right. Tom replied evenly, and the fact that you just resorted to name-calling proves my point. When facts and logic fail you, insults take over. It's pathetic. The co-hosts shifted uncomfortably in their seats. This wasn't an interview unraveling, this was a public dismantling. You want facts? Joy said, her voice cracking. Let's talk about your bizarre personal life. Your failed marriages, your strange religious beliefs. Tom's expression didn't change, but something dangerous flashed behind his eyes. My personal life is my business, Joy. But since you opened that door, let's look at yours. You've been married multiple times as well. Somehow that's only an issue when it's someone else, right? And as for religion, I've never used this platform to mock anyone's faith the way you do, regularly. I don't mock faith, Joy protested. I question dangerous ideologies. You mock what you don't understand. Tom countered. You've built a career on intellectual laziness, substituting ridicule for research, contempt for curiosity. You don't challenge dangerous ideas. You manufacture them by promoting division and resentment. Joy was breathing hard now, her chest rising and falling rapidly. She looked cornered, desperate, volatile. I'm only repeating your words, Tom said quietly. The difference is, without your echo chamber of applause, they sound as empty as they truly are. The cameras cut to the audience, mouths agape, eyes wide. This was unlike anything daytime television had ever seen. You know what? Joy suddenly stood, her chair screeching against the floor. I don't have to sit here and take abuse from some washed-up actor who thinks he's Tom Cruise, but behaves like a petulant child. Tom remained seated, composed, unbothered, washed up. He said calmly, Joy, my last film made over 700 million worldwide. What's the last thing you created that actually brought joy to anyone? Tom asked coolly. And I find it ironic that you're calling me petulant when you're the one having a meltdown right now. This is my show? Joy shouted, all pretense of professionalism gone. You're a guest here. Actually, Tom replied quietly, his calm only amplifying her hysteria. This is The View. It belongs to all the hosts, the producers, the network, and ultimately the audience. You seem to have confused being one voice at the table with being a dictator. Joy turned desperately to her co-hosts. Are you really going to let him talk to me like this? No one answered. The silence was crushing. Even Whoopi, usually quick to defend her colleagues, couldn't find the words. The uncomfortable truth was obvious to everyone at the table. What Tom was saying resonated because it was accurate. The fact that you think disagreement equals disrespect tells us everything we need to know about your character. Tom continued. You've surrounded yourself with people who either agree with you or are too intimidated to challenge you. But I'm not intimidated by you, Joy. I'm just disappointed. Disappointed? Joy echoed, her voice barely audible. Tom said, nodding. You had a platform, a voice, a real opportunity to make a difference. Instead, you chose division over unity, mockery over understanding, ego over empathy. You could have lifted people up, but you chose to tear them down. Joy scanned the studio, the crew, the audience, her co-hosts. For the first time in years, she saw herself reflected in their faces, and she didn't like what she saw. The moment passed quickly. Her expression hardened, but something had changed. The arrogance was gone, replaced by desperation. She looked like a wounded animal backed into a corner, and the tension in the room turned dangerous. "You think you're so perfect," Joy hissed, her voice low and venomous. "Sitting there in your expensive suit, judging me. But I know who you really are. I know about the control, the manipulation, how you treat people who work for you." Tom's smile finally faded, though his voice remained steady. "Joy, now you're just making things up. And frankly, it's sad. You're so desperate to hurt me that you're willing to spread lies on live television. Is this really who you want to be?" "I'm not making anything up," Joy insisted, though her voice wavered. "I have sources." "Sources?" Tom repeated flatly. "The same anonymous whispers and gossip you rely on for every attack. You've just illustrated your journalistic standards perfectly. Real journalists verify facts. You throw mud and hope something sticks." The other hosts visibly squirmed. One stared down at her hands. Another kept glancing toward the exits like she was planning an escape. "You want to talk about sources?" Joy's voice climbed again. "Let's talk about how you've silenced people who tried to speak out against you." Tom leaned back in his chair, completely composed. "Joy, you're spiraling. Everyone watching can see it. You came into this interview planning an ambush. You just didn't expect me to fight back. Now that your usual tactics aren't working, you're making wild accusations." "They're not wild accusations," Joy said, but even she didn't sound convinced. "Then prove it," Tom said simply. "Right now. If you have evidence, present it. Otherwise, you're proving exactly what I said. You're a bully who attacks without justification." Joy opened her mouth, closed it. The silence stretched. Cameras captured every second of her struggle, every flicker of uncertainty as her claims collapsed under scrutiny. "That's what I thought," Tom said softly. "This is the real problem, Joy. You make accusations you can't support. You ask questions you don't want answered. And when you're challenged, you double down instead of admitting you were wrong." "I am never wrong," Joy snapped, but the words rang hollow. "Everyone is wrong sometimes, Joy. The difference," Tom continued, "is that most people learn from their mistakes. You've built a career on never admitting fault, never showing growth, never demonstrating humility. And look where that's led." He gestured around the studio, taking in the stiff expressions, the strained silence, the unmistakable tension. "You've created a toxic environment, one where disagreement is treated as betrayal, where differing viewpoints are met with hostility instead of curiosity. You've turned what should be a forum for discussion into a platform for persecution." Joy was trembling now, her hands clenched tightly at her sides. "You don't understand anything about what I do here." "I understand perfectly," Tom replied. "You've confused being provocative with being profound, controversy with courage. But there's no bravery in attacking people from a position of power, and there's no strength in picking fights you believe you can't lose." "Except you're losing this one," someone in the audience called out. Nervous laughter rippled through the studio. Joy spun toward the crowd, eyes blazing. "Who said that? Who had the nerve?" "Joy!" Whoopi cut in at last, rising from her chair. "Maybe we should go to a commercial break." "No," Joy snapped, turning back to Tom and jabbing a finger in his direction. "He started this. He came on my show and attacked me, and now he's turning everyone against me." Tom shook his head slowly. "Joy, I didn't turn anyone against you. I simply refuse to be your victim. And the fact that standing up for myself feels like an attack to you says everything about how you're used to treating people." "You're twisting everything," Joy said, her voice bordering on hysteria. "You're making me look like the villain when you ambushed me." "I answered your questions honestly," Tom replied calmly. "I defended myself when you attacked me personally. If that feels like an ambush, maybe you should ask yourself why honest dialogue makes you so uncomfortable." Joy stared at him, chest heaving. Then she looked around the studio, at the crew, the audience, her co-hosts. People she'd worked with for years were now watching her with something that looked like pity. "Fine," she said suddenly, her voice flat. "I'm done. I'm absolutely done with this." She yanked off her microphone with shaking hands. 30 years in this business, and I have to sit here being lectured by some Hollywood pretty boy who thinks he knows everything. Joy. Wait, Whoopi said, standing. But Joy was already backing away from the table. No, Whoopi. I'm not going to sit here and be humiliated in front of millions of people, not by him. Not by anyone. Tom remained seated, watching her with what looked like genuine sadness. No one is trying to humiliate you, Joy. But if you can't handle being disagreed with, maybe you shouldn't be in the business of controversial opinions. That was the breaking point. Joy slammed her microphone onto the table, the crash echoing through the studio. That's it. I quit. I'm done with this show, this network, and all of you. She stormed off the set, her heels striking sharply against the floor. The cameras followed as she disappeared backstage, leaving behind a silence so heavy it seemed endless. At last, Tom broke it. Well, he said, turning to the remaining hosts with a small, polite smile. Should we talk about the movie now? And that, according to this account, was how Tom Cruise walked into a hostile studio and walked out having exposed everything beneath the surface, using nothing but composure, clarity, and a refusal to be intimidated. What did you think of this confrontation? Hit subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. Did Joy Behar get what she deserved, or did Tom Cruise go too far?